11:04 a.m. on Thursday, the 4th of September, 2008. This is Marc Strassman, West Coast correspondent with the Harvardwood channel. We're in the offices of Patric Verrone, the president of the Writers Guild of America West. Welcome to the Harvardwood channel.
Thank you, Marc. Good to be here.
We're going to be talking about the media, entertainment, and politics in preparation for a panel that you're going to be appearing on later this month. You want to just tell our listeners here a little bit about that event?
Well, Harvardwood has an annual meeting that this year I believe is September 20th with panelists from the entertainment industry to talk about usually current events and issues affecting the industry. This year I've been asked to be on the panel.
And sort of as a way of previewing that and inciting interest in it, we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship among media, entertainment, and politics, which you're pretty well situated to do as the head of the union that does the writing in Hollywood. Why don't we start by comparing the structure of the entertainment world with the political world in terms of constituency versus audience, and the elite performers in both sectors, and how their performances are formulated and received, and the way in which the audience or constituency gets to feed back to the work that the more prominent people in the ecosystem perform their work.
I need a blue book to really answer that question thoroughly, Marc. I think there's always been a relationship between the entertainment industry and Washington. Hollywood and Washington have a relationship going back possibly as long as 100 years, and Washington looks to Hollywood for often funding and celebrity endorsements, as it were, and the entertainment community looks to Washington for certainly protection on issues of free speech and some tax advantages often. But right now, the biggest issue that I think is affecting the entertainment community in Washington is internet freedom or net neutrality, which is an issue that the Writers Guild has been in the forefront of over the past few months.
So say a little bit about that, what the issue is, what Hollywood wants, and how the internet figured in the recent strike and a new contract that the Writers Guild got.
Sure. Well, apropos of the strike, we found during the course of it that when your employers against whom you're striking are also the people who control most of the major media outlets in the country and in the world, it's a little difficult to get your message out. And so we use the internet to win the internet using blogs and social networking websites, YouTube videos, etc. Throughout the strike and in the months thereafter, it became clear to us that there is a growing concern that the internet may be the pipe that is the internet may be crimped. We've seen the FCC in discussions, to put it nicely, with various cable and internet providers because there are concerns about how you control the flow of information through the net. Right now, there are several pieces of legislation in the Senate and in the House. The Senate legislation sponsored by Senator Dorgan and Senator Snowe, and in the House by Congressman Marc of Massachusetts, designed to keep the internet neutral, so to speak, which is to say that internet service providers can't control what content or what information is being disseminated, either uploaded or downloaded on the internet. It's been a subject of controversy because of the amount of history that we have in the entertainment industry with major corporations taking over the means of distribution. When the movie industry was young, there were a number of independent filmmakers that eventually consolidated down to the precious few that we have now, about 6 studios. Similarly in television, whereas there used to be a great number of independent producers providing content to the networks. Now it's really just the network's own in-house production entities that do the producing work for their specific distributing networks. This is as a result of the financial syndication rules that were abandoned in the 1990s, and we see a similar struggle going on right now with the internet. That once the large conglomerates become involved and control distribution, then the production becomes stifled.
What is the situation right now with the internet as a distribution medium? And did the union get everything that it needed and wanted at the time, or are there still ongoing issues that are going to need to be resolved going forward?
Well, as far as the language of the contract, you never get everything you wanted, but we were we concentrated mostly on trying to get a jurisdiction over new media content,
right,
material made for the internet, and we got that. We also got an improved residual for reuse of material on the internet than we used to have for DVDs and home videos. The first time in our history that a new media actually pays a higher residual than the older media. What we're seeing happen, though, is that the sort of gold rush or land rush to use the internet as a means of producing new content is happening slowly but steadily. There isn't quite yet a business model that is fully developed, although it does seem as though advertiser-supported content is likely to be the most common method of broadcast, as it were, on the internet.
Does that mean that most professionally produced media on the internet is going to be reused broadcast material or cable material for the foreseeable future? Do you think?
Right now, if you go to YouTube, about 60 to 70% of the material that's on there is reused or clips from professionally produced broadcast or cable TV and films. The rest of it is what we used to call home videos. People in lab coats dropping Mentos into Diet Coke bottles and dogs on skateboards. But I think that's going to change. I think the percentage of content made by professionals outside of the studio system for the internet is growing and will continue to grow steadily. Again, because what you have there is you don't have the influence or the over-influence of studio executives and production executives. The talent, the writers, the actors, and the directors can produce what they want and then continue to control it through distribution.
Well, based on your experience during the strike, in which the membership used the internet as a means of getting its message out, is that a precursor of more, let's call it writer-centric production? Do the conditions of entry, the barriers to entry on the internet mean that more material of a higher quality can be produced without the financing of studios, and therefore eliminate them as the powerful element in the mix that they are now?
Yes, absolutely. The barriers to entry in media for the first time in modern history are actually at a place where the average TV writer or screenwriter can produce out of their own pockets a broadcast quality piece of film.
Do you see much of that happening yet, or is it still more just in the realm of potential?
Well, it's happening more and more. Just recently, the most successful so far of the internet ventures was something that our member Joss Whedon did, called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog, I believe is the title of it. Because of Joss's name recognition, I think it did something like 200,000 downloads in the first few hours, crashing the website itself and becoming the #1 download on iTunes.
Well, this same issue came up just last week there was a Harvardwood event about book publishing. And one of the questions raised to the panelists was, can you use the internet to publish yourself? And the consensus among the panelists was, it's too much trouble, we want to write, we don't want to be publishers. Is there a comparable dynamic in visual media where writers want to write and not be production executives anyway, or do they want to replace the people that they're sometimes antagonistic with, or will they hire people to do the production? What do you envision as the possible structure of a writer-centric media ecosystem on the web?
Well, that's a complicated question, but I'll look into my crystal ball. And what I see for most television writers, or at least writers who are what we would call hyphenates, television writer producers, a large share of their actual work isn't writing, it's producing. And so they are very much used to the idea of casting a program, putting the actors and choosing sets and choosing costumes and doing the kind of production work necessary to actually mount a show on TV. I think that is going to be experience that internet producers are going to look for when they begin to shell out the production budgets, which are going to be much, much smaller than they are on TV, but they're going to look for writers, producers from TV who have done that kind of work. I think writers who are looking to get their material that they've written in its original form produced are going to meet up and use the internet as a place where they won't have the interference and the control of a production entity like a studio or a network that is actually part of a multinational conglomerate.
Along with the control, they won't have the money either. What mechanisms are emerging, or do you see emerging, to finance this kind of writer-centric, internet-based production?
I think what we're seeing, not only venture capital, the way this industry always seems to attract that, but I think we're also seeing the rise of an advertiser-based medium. That is to say, even now when you watch a clip of or a streaming show that's rerun off of TV on the internet, there's a commercial in front of it. And when you watch a piece of news footage that's on CNN.com, there's a piece of advertising in front of it. Right now, I think the viewer who's used to watching television on the internet is going to be willing to accept a 15-second or 30-second preview commercial before the actual content that they want to see. I think that's becoming the norm, and I think that advertiser-based production is going to become the norm.
Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about the relationship between entertainment and media. I'd like to bring in the general political situation. In preparation for this interview, I've been trying to pay attention to the entertainment elements in politics. The two conventions have just been going on. The Republican one is still happening. What do you see as the current status of entertainment values, production values, and entertainment, even gossip and tabloid level interest as an element in the political process? And do you think that's good, bad, inevitable, not as well done as it could be, or what?
Well, you always wish it could be done better. I think that this presidential election and the other races that are going on this year are going to be heavily influenced and affected by media coverage the way they always are, but with the added value of media on the internet. I think now more than in the past, people have the ability to forward. Virally is the word we use. It's not a pretty word, but people can send clips of mashed up political speeches that they've put together. They can do their own sort of comedy bits at home. I'm seeing, or people are sending to me, all kinds of footage of backstage goings on. I saw a piece of footage yesterday of commentators who thought the microphone was off.
Right, I listened to that as well.
I mean, that stuff, which hasn't existed in the past, is going to become integral.
Now, as it becomes integral, does all of that mean that there's going to be even less emphasis on issues and more on personality and presentation? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I
in your
think,
view?
In my view, it's not a good thing for the personality to overcome the issues, but I think for the past 200 years that's been the case. I mean, you look back at the dawn of political cartooning more than 100 years ago with Thomas Nast. I mean, that it wasn't, people didn't enjoy those because of the content so much as because of the art. This is media adds a certain level of personality to the race that make the issues fall by the wayside. I'm something of a student of presidential recordings, and in listening to the voices of William McKinley and William Taft and Herbert Hoover. Those men would never be able to run for dog catcher today, much less president of the United States, based on their quote-unquote personality.
Or Abraham Lincoln, for example, as well.
Well, we don't have any recordings of Lincoln, so we don't
right.
know exactly. But no, the point is, I think personality is absolutely a factor in politics.
Okay. Talk a little bit about your own experience in this regard. How did becoming editor and running the Harvard Lampoon prepare you for running the union here?
Well, it certainly introduced me to a lot of the same people, I'll say that. When I was an undergraduate at Harvard in the late 70s and early 80s, much of the Lampoon was made up of people who were otherwise there not because they wanted to be in show business, but because they wanted to write, they wanted to express their sense of humor, and then they were going to, as I did, go to law school or business school and become a lawyer or go to Wall Street. Interestingly, right around that time, several of the members of the Lampoon, Max Pross and Tom Gamble, who were 2 years ahead of me, got hired on Saturday Night Live, and that sort of became a point of entry for a lot of the writers in TV at that time.
It was like putting someone up,
Lampoon.
like putting someone on the roof, and then they pulled other people up with them.
There was an element of that. There was a real attraction. I mean, we of course the big names like Conan O'Brien were yet to come, but there was a genuine push in the late 1980s, particularly for agents who would come to Harvard, would go to the Lampoon looking for new clients.
Was that funny enough for the Lampoon to lampoon it, or did people adapt pretty rapidly to the new opportunities?
Oh, I think people took advantage of it, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that one of the things you did when you competed, when you comped for the Lampoon, was write something that could eventually become a spec script in Hollywood. And but aside from knowing a lot of the men and women who were undergraduates and members of the Lampoon when I was there, there was the politics of writing is something that requires a little getting used to. Writers are certainly extraordinary storytellers and able to construct arguments and be argumentative. And so that's been something that I saw both as an undergraduate on the Lampoon and in this organization. And so being able to deal with that and interact with that has become one of the benchmarks and hallmarks of this administration here.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact on the political milieu of entertainment and the vast quantity of depictions of life that appear in film and television in particular, that mostly, especially on television, are devoid of political content, but may implicitly support or encourage a particular, even apolitical turn of mind. What can you say about the political and social environment that's created by entertainment media, and whether writers have an obligation or an opportunity or need not to insert their own political ideas into entertainment media?
Well, I think in my experience, and understand that I've mostly done either children's programming or a late night comedy variety or animation. When I was working for The Tonight Show and Johnny Carson, Obviously, you put in political material because that was the basis of what he was able to do on a daily basis in his monologue. It wasn't. It ended up being sort of an equal opportunity skewering of political perspectives. However, there certainly could be some pointed commentary in there, and I think it was, if not our obligation, certainly our preference to put in things that spoke truth to power, as it were. Children's programming and animation is a little more sensitive to that kind of thing, and there are issues that I think kids either wouldn't be familiar with or wouldn't be it wouldn't be appropriate to discuss in front of them. However, there's certainly a long history in literature of political commentary and social commentary weaving its way through children's media. As far as the more adult animation, The Simpsons and programs like that with which I've worked, that inherently it seems is written by people who have, if not a nihilistic point of view, some point of view that comes through in the writing and in the production. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I mean, that show's been on the air now for 20 seasons, so it appears that it has found an audience and has become a classic.
Well, Samuel Goldwyn said, if you want to send a message, use Western Union. People may not know what Western Union is anymore. You'd say, if you want to send a message, use email. But do you think that the messages in entertainment have any resonance in on the political scene now, or is it mainly just the influence of production values and personality orientation that's seeped over into the political realm?
Well, I can't say. I'll certainly say that the production values have seeped in watching both of the conventions and in seeing last night Governor Palin referred to the styrofoam pillars being hauled back to a studio. There is certainly
everyone's in on the joke. Sense.
It seemed that way, that there was an understanding that this is just a big show that's being put on. And if you look back over the 60 years of televised conventions, they have mirrored and in some respects built on the current technology and current production forms that TV has to offer. Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message. I think we're actually living in a day and age where the message is the message because it is so easy to get it out, and in a democratic, with a small d, fashion, using the internet.
Percy Shelley said the poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. If you substitute showrunners or writers for poets, do you think that the impact of the entertainment community in creating the world we live in is greater or lesser than that of politicians and political actors these days in America or globally?
Well, as you quote Shelley, I'll quote Paddy Chayefsky. In his screenplay for the movie Network, there's a moment where the Peter Finch character is being lectured about how he can actually change the world, and he says, "Why me?" And the answer is, "Because you're on television, stupid." And I can remember a lot of times feeling that way, particularly when I was writing for The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, this American icon who could have said anything, and a fair number of people would have followed relatively blindly or thoughtlessly. I think it is important for writers and producers in Hollywood and in television in particular to be attentive to their responsibility, and again, not to use the word obligation, but the availability of the fact that their message is seen and heard by millions of people on a regular basis. I don't know that the assembly line method of television production allows for that. It takes some quick wit and some real hard work to put out the amount of television that's put out on a regular basis. But still, we see that, some statistics show that more people get their news now from Jon Stewart than they do from the daily newspaper. I think that's indicative of the power of television.
It's tying back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of internet ascendancy in entertainment and media. Do you see more or less of an individual voice, including political voices, to be expressible through new media than broadcast and cable as it exists now?
Oh, I think it's going to be a mile wide. We'll see if it's an inch deep, but it certainly allows for a greater number of participants in the debate. Even with 500 channels of cable, there's a limited amount of shelf space. With the internet, the situation is turned on its head. You have an almost unlimited amount of shelf space, and the trick for the viewer is to determine what to watch and when. And the trick for the producer or the writer or the distributor is to actually get the eyeballs to the product.
Now, speaking of eyeballs on product, while I certainly disavow completely the substance of it, Leni Riefenstaffel's Triumph of the Will was a masterpiece of political propaganda that was entertaining and furthered a political agenda. I haven't seen anything of that quality of work in terms of propaganda in contemporary political advertising or organizing. Do you see a potential or a danger or an opportunity for really strongly crafted material to have more of an impact than it does now on the political process if people of high caliber apply themselves in a way that would be potentially dangerous, potentially beneficent, just more quality than the sort of lower level of work that's being done a lot of the time now?
I do see the opportunity. I can't predict whether anyone will have the combination of talent and message and marketing and timing to be able to, hit the mark. I also believe that the truth will out, that there is only so much of a message that good production values can convey, that ultimately the message itself becomes important.
On that grounds, evaluator, give us your opinion about Obama, Biden, and McCain, Palin in terms of their entertainment value and how that's going to tie into their ability to get their messages across.
Well, I think we've already seen Senator Obama's likability factor when it comes to people who are producing short videos on his behalf, and the Obama Girl has become if not a classic, certainly something well known on the internet. The McCain Palin presentations last night and tonight at the convention, having seen Governor Palin's, she obviously has a forceful presence that I think may become a force to be reckoned with from the media standpoint. I know historically that Senator Biden has had difficulty with quotes of his being misused or quotes of someone else that he used later without attribution. That sort of thing, I think, will become a big part of political campaigns. That there is no off the record remark that can't be used, that can't be either found and dug back up and reused. And I think we saw, and I forget who it was, I think it was a candidate, might have been in Virginia, who made a remark at a rally.
George Allen,
exactly right, who made an off-color remark at a rally that eventually came back to haunt him because some citizen reporter had a video camera there.
Right before we wrap up, focus a little bit more on Governor Palin and the potential that she has in bringing some of the other ideas that we've been talking about in terms of swamping the issues side of things with personality and presentation and her potential, which I think you've sensed as well as I did when I was watching her and the reactions to her, of becoming just a personality who is valued for her entertainment value, regardless of the substance of what she stands for, and how that could be the kind of late empire politics that we're ready for, that's likely to happen, and what kind of impact that would have if it takes place.
It's a little difficult to say.
Could she or someone else become a new media demagogue in a way that has the advantages, if there are any, and the disadvantages of demagoguery as a political approach?
Naturally, when Governor Palin's first appearance, when her name first came to light, when she was first announced as the candidate, we sort of look back at similar situations when Geraldine Ferraro was nominated, when a similar unknown in Dan Quayle was nominated back in 1988.
Neither of them, though, were former sports anchors.
My point is
or beauty
that,
queens.
that
Right.
we don't know much about these individuals, and then when they get forced into the public light, it is truly a test of something. We'll call it the style or personality, if they can survive. She's right now struggling with a combination not only of presentation, namely her ability to look good on camera and to make her message heard, but also the substance of her political beliefs and her own personal story, which has become an important part of national politics these days, is the narrative of who this person is and from where they came, etc.
Another entertainment metaphor for that's central now to the political process.
Seems to be the case, and so as a result, I think she's got a lot to grapple with. I'm not in a position to be able to say whether she'll succeed. As of yesterday, we didn't know whether she could deliver a speech in front of 7,500 people. As of a week ago, we didn't even know anything about her personally. We'll know more as the time passes. I personally hope that it becomes a discussion not about her abilities as a public speaker, but rather about her political beliefs, just as it should be about Senator McCain's, Senator Obama's, and Senator Biden's.
Okay, why don't you wrap up by giving us your best observations on the role of writers in entertainment versus politics, and what their responsibilities and opportunities are, and what you see in the near future as the role of writers in both of these areas.
Writers, especially in television, are the first among equals in a extraordinarily collaborative art form, probably the most collaborative art form in world history. As a result, they are the genesis of ideas, and in TV particularly, they are the progenitors and the people who see it virtually from cradle to grave. As I say, that's an important responsibility. In politics, we all think of ourselves as the masters of our fate. I suspect that I don't want to limit it to speechwriters, because to a certain extent, anybody who writes a piece of legislation, anybody who writes a newspaper editorial or a piece of the public discourse is in their own way a political writer. But that's a much broader spectrum upon which to make generalizations, and so I hesitate to do so.
Okay, I want to thank you for talking to the Harvardwood channel today, and people can look forward to seeing you in person, talking about these and other related issues later this month at the Media, Entertainment, and Politics event that's going to be co-sponsored by Harvardwood, Harvard Club of Southern California, and the Harvard Business School alumni of Southern California. Thank you very much, Patric.
Thank you, Marc.